let's talk about Edtc 300. What was my semester like? Well, the semester started with really looking at blogs, edu-sites, and WordPress to make the e-portfolio. This was something I'd looked at in other classes, but never really looked at the personalization aspect of it or how to really make it my own. It was always something I deleted after and never really paid much attention to besides what was required for class. I really like that we dove into that in this class. So I was able to look at how to add about me pages, how to create menus, how to add these cool unclickable links like Katya showed us, which was really awesome. We also found out how to add to categories, to our menus, how to add hyperlinks and text citations, things like that were really helpful in personalizing our blog and really helping me create that space as a digital identity that I want to be seen. Most of my accounts are private, and I really feel proud that I feel like I don't have to have this one private. Next, we looked at the personal learning network. So the PLN video we talked about in class was really helpful to kind of understand the three areas of a PLN, the personal, learning, and the network aspect. So diving into the personal aspect, you really get to choose who you connect with, which platforms you connect on, what you post, when you post them, kind of what you get from it. The personal aspect of a PLN is really nice because you get to choose. It's all up to you. You take away what you want. That kind of brings us to the learning aspect. So with a PLN, you take away what you want. So you can connect with people, share material with others, and get material from others. But really, what you see, what you learn, and what you take away from it is your own decision. So you can share with others so they can take away that material from you. But ultimately, your learning is your choice. The next aspect is the network, the collaboration aspect. So you're really collaborating with a bunch of different people, gaining these tools from different areas of expertise, different people in different areas. So there's so many different people you can connect with. PLN, a personal learning network, is usually online, but it can be in any area where you're connecting with all these different people. So we really talked about social media platforms in terms of PLN. More specifically, Twitter. So we talked about Twitter in terms of collaborating with others and sharing resources and gaining resources, participating in things like this Ask Ed chat, all which are very helpful as a teacher in gaining those tools. The tweet deck was super helpful to kind of organize everything on Twitter and help with that Ask Ed chat, which I thought was a great tool that I didn't even know existed, that could be used to create a digital identity and also communicate and network with others. I did have issues with Twitter, although I think it's a great resource and it's definitely something I want to teach to and teach about. It's not necessarily a resource or a tool that worked for me. Again, I don't think that it won't work for everybody, and I think that it's important that people know this aspect of a PLN because it is really important. I just didn't find it was something for me due to the openness of it and the lack of privacy. So Facebook was another one. We didn't really talk about it in class, but throughout learning about this digital identity, I found myself sharing more posts on Facebook, things like resources parents can use, and other tools from teachers that I have or friends that are in the same classes as me. And although it wasn't something we focused on in class, I found everything we talked about in class really opened my idea of the personal identity and how I can create that on other platforms like my Facebook page. Technology in the classroom. So we talked about technology, the SAMR model. So this was talked about in the SAMR model, a practical guide for EdTech integration. And it was a great tool kind of talking about ways to integrate technology in a meaningful way. So technology should be used to either transform or enhance learning. That's something that this article really talked about. It should be used in a meaningful way. Technology shouldn't just be thrown in as something that's easy, that keeps the kids occupied. That's what people always say to me when I'm babysitting. Oh, just put the kids on technology because it's easy. But that's not the point. If students are going to be on technology, they have to be getting something out of it. It has to be meaningful for their learning, or there's really no point. And one aspect of of that is that it should be taught and it should be modeled so that they know what to expect and they know what's expected of them. So this goes right into teaching digital citizenship. If you want your students to know how to use technology, you need to teach them. So you need to make sure students are aware. Make sure that when we're teaching about digital identity, whenever possible, there's many different areas that can be taught about digital identity. I know I was looking at the curriculum in grade 2 health education, and you can teach about feelings and how digital identities can impact people's feelings and how people are on the internet, impacts well-being, which directly fits in with that outcome in grade 2. So there's never a time that you can't teach about it, as long as it's something meaningful and the students really understand what it is that they're learning. So what really is social media? It's important that we kind of know this and that we teach to it when we're talking about digital identity and digital citizenship in the classroom. This goes right into the Amanda Todd video that we watched and that we talked about in class. The idea of, will things really be forgotten? So the girls in the video talked about the idea that they thought it would just pass over, that it would just be forgotten in a few months. But will things really be forgotten? A lot of things are, but sometimes they're not. The other aspect of it is social media really private? Can you really use tools to hide it? So as talked about in The Secret Social Media Lives of Teenagers by Anna Homoyano, it talks about how there's all these tools that are out now, all these apps that people can use, teenagers can use, everybody can use to hide their stuff on social media, to block it from certain people. But it's really important that students know that even though those technology tools are out there, it doesn't mean that it's actually hiding or erasing or deleting the information that's put on the internet. Just because something's out there and you think you hide it doesn't mean that it's actually hidden. And again, will things really be forgotten when you put it on the internet? No, it won't be. So it's important that we're teaching about that, and we're teaching about that in terms of a digital identity. Because when you're trying to build a digital identity, you can't erase things that are on the internet. Building a positive digital identity will help with negatives that might have come, but there's no way to erase what's been put on the internet. So how can we address digital issues in the classroom? So we read the Character Education for Digital Age by Jason Euler in class. And the main message I got from that is, if you're going to let your students use technology, teach them how to use it and let them make the decision what they want to do with it. You can't really tell anybody what they can or can't do, especially as a teacher. It's really important to give students all the information they need, the positives, the negatives, the consequences, what can come out of it, and let them use that to determine what they want to come out of it, what they want to do and what they want their decisions to be. Ultimately, it's their decision, and if they have all the tools they need, that's something that they should be able to do on their own. And then in turn, they should know about the consequences that happen, and should be taught about those just in case they do make the wrong decision online. And I think being a role model is a huge aspect of a teacher, and creating this digital identity and digital citizenship. So you should model to your students what you want them to do. So the positive digital identity you're trying to create, that positive digital citizenship that you want your students to have, should also be displayed in any ways that you can. So the saying, practice what you preach. If you talk about having a positive digital identity, it's something that you should have if it's something you want your students to have. And also just the idea of, be honest who you are online. If you try to hide things online or not be who you are, your students could find that out. Anybody could find that out. So it's important to stay true to who you are, and make sure your students know too, and make sure that that's something that's taught about, that online should represent who you are and what you want people to know and think about you. there are many great aspects that were learned through Edtc 300 that will be brought into the classroom. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is just to educate everybody, educate your students, educate your family on the dangers of social media, of digital citizenship and what can happen, but also the positives of what happens when you have a positive citizenship, and how that really impacts the way people look at you and the way your future could have.